And welcome back to Deadpool, ladies and gentlemen. In the last part, we took out a Sinister clone that was up in the security tower, and from what Cable has told us, the real Mr. Sinister is hiding out in Magneto's old citadel on another far east side of the island. So instead of taking the long way there and going on like some 3 days walk or whatnot, Deadpool has another idea in mind, but in order for that plan to work, we need to look around the area, like 2 sides of this area, and look for 2 parts for the Sentinel boot.
Alrighty.
That said, while he does that, can we just talk about the tragedy of Cable here real quick?
Sure.
Oh. Wait, there was a tragedy of Cable?
Think about his whole shtick. He's a time traveler. He's effectively what we call a Trunks time traveler. You know, comes back from the future to rectify, his future sucks. And he has to come back and stop whatever it is, and help the heroes stop whatever it is for the reason why his future sucks. Thing is, he has to keep doing that multiple times. Why? Because he'll go to let's say, for example, Magneto ruled the world and it's awful and shit. So he has to come back so in the future where he lives, it's an awful world ruled by Magneto. So he has to come back, stop Magneto. Help the hero stop Magneto. Cool. He goes back to the future, sees it's in ruin again, except this time, because Magneto didn't rule the world, that gave Mr. Sinister the chance to rule the world. So then he has to come back again, he'll stop Mr. Sinister, and then he goes back and to see that because Mr. Sinister didn't rule the world, some other villain ruled the world, and that's pretty much just the repetitive process that Cable has to keep going through. Because when one villain rules the sorry.
Well, that's the thing. It's I see where you're coming from, but it's like at the same time, it just seems like, having to continuously fall back on the same plot points over and over again, wouldn't that just be like the fault of the writing itself?
Well, it's one of those things where it's like, I know there are some stories that do directly involve Cable's future, but majority of the time, whenever Cable is written in, it's mostly just him coming in as like another character. Like for the X-Men, for the most part.
Okay. Because, I think, having to repeat, plots, wholesale like that and everything, that's, my first thought, I think about the manga Bleach. Now, I never really kept up with Bleach, but I'm fully aware of what happened. So it's you get, you got what was known as the Soul Society arc, which I think was the second arc in the manga. And, everyone loved it, told a really good story. That was when, Bleach really became popular and everything. And then it was as soon as that story was over, the next major story, it was literally the exact same story, practically retold. Okay, you have a female character who is close to the main character, she's been kidnapped, so now everyone has to go into the enemy stronghold to get her back, and everybody fights the same type of enemies with the same type of outcomes, and it's people took notice of that and got really pissed, and it's I can't really blame them, because it's there's a difference between, developing the story and changing things and stuff, but when you have to resort to repeating the same plot over and over again, it's that's just bad writing.
Well, to be fair, Cable doesn't show up that often, but that is kind of just one of the unfortunate events of having a time travel character like that, because it's they're from the future. What other reason would they want to come to the past? There's really no reason for it aside from, gotta save the future. That also said, Cable doesn't show up that often. He really only shows up for instances where his direct involvement is the reason why they win. Because he's not just going to show up for any old instance that the X-Men or whatever can handle on their own. If the X-Men end up winning without his involvement, he won't come. But if it is his direct involvement that is the reason why they win, then yeah, he will show up.
Okay.
So he doesn't show up that often, but, you know, that said, you're absolutely right. His whole shtick is very repetitive. But like I said, that also goes into the tragedy of the character. Not just a tragedy of his you know, his never-ending battle, but, you know, just his, the character itself, I should say. Like pretty much how you just explained it.
Okay.
All right, there we go. Well, one Sentinel boots part down, and just one more to go. Yeah. It's like I will admit, it's like, okay, I see what they're trying to do with this whole setup or whatnot in order to progress to the level or whatnot, but it's like, why this fetch quest? Cause it's like, okay. This is probably like, it's like, okay, aside from like some other criticisms that I have with this game overall and whatnot, one really big criticism that I should probably go ahead and bring up, it's like, I don't know if you guys have noticed, but it's like, it's been like a few parts, and we're pretty much still in the exact same level, just in slightly different areas or whatnot. So it's like, okay, alright, BJ here has been pointing out, like, how convoluted the plot is non-stop. Okay, so we already established that. But on top of that, the plot itself is, like, when you really think about it, it's a lot shorter than this game makes it out to be.
Well, I never said the plot was convoluted. I just said the plot, I said the plot is kind of non-existent.
You know what? That might have been what I was trying to get at. If I had like some very poor choice of words, so I apologize. But even so, it's like.
But that said, you're absolutely right, Ryan. But that also said, the rest of the spoiler warning, the rest of the game takes place on Genosha, so there's a reason for that.
Well, right, yeah, but even then. Well, first we had this sewer level that dragged on for a while. Then we had this other level that was dragged so long in the city, and now we're gonna have this level that drags on for a bit of a time in this particular part of Genosha, only for us to get sent to a prison or whatnot, or it's a mine shaft or whatnot. See, it's like the plot. When you think about it, the plot itself, it's relatively short, but the High Moon Studios try to make up for it by dragging on the levels much longer than they should be, in my opinion.
Well, that's typically that's usually just a like something that a lot of games will do, just to lengthen the time of their games. That said, that's never a good thing to do. Like, you know, I'd rather play a short game that's tons of fun than a long game that drags on.
Right, and it's like with this particular moment within this level or whatnot, where we have to go through these relatively huge areas in this particular part of Genosha, all for the sole purpose of getting 2 parts of a Sentinel boot or whatnot. It's like, yeah, this is where it's like, okay, now it's like, if the levels were breaking the pace enough at certain points, this is a really big pace breaker for me.
Yeah, and it's like, and I can certainly understand, like, you know, normally I'm the kind of person, like, I think it would depend on how it's handled, like, you know, where you're saying, like, the rest of this game is all going to be taking place in this one location, just in different areas. It's like, I've seen a concept like that work really well. You know, case in point, BioShock. You know, all of BioShock, like, you know, take, like, just even the first one, it all takes place in Rapture, but every area that you're going into, like from, like, you know, Minerva's Den to, you know, the whole artist area, you know, you've got the fisherman place, it's like, you know, they all feel like they're unique and distinctive areas, you know, even though they all take place in one city. So it's like, you know, I can forgive something like that. But, I mean, if it's like, you know, if it's one location, but there's, like, you know, very little variation between them, then it's like, you know, yeah, that will get annoying. It's like, that's one of the reasons, like, you know, like Persona 3, I think, is an example of this, where so much of the game, like your dungeons, takes place in this one giant tower called Tartarus. But every floor that you go up, I mean, it's the same freaking layouts. It's the same type of dungeon. It's just the only difference is, okay, maybe the walls are different colors. And that gets old and tiring really fast. So it's like,
I could say the same thing about Mementos.
Yeah, Mementos is So BJ, you just play Persona 5, yeah. And so Mementos, like Persona 3 is like, take Mementos, but that is the entirety. That is all the dungeons and everything. It is all Mementos.
Really?
Yeah, that is Persona 3 right there. And that's that's one of my biggest criticisms about Persona 3 is Tartarus gets tedious. So it's like, BioShock is an example of, okay, one location, but make each area so unique that it actually feels like you're going to different places and you're making progress. Don't do a Tartarus where it's the same thing, but it's just, it gets so goddamn repetitive and dull and boring, and it gets annoying.
Yeah, it's like that said, like, as much as I loved Persona 5, it got to the point where whenever I would go through the Mementos after a while, I would just ignore all the fucking enemies just so I can get through there as fast as I could.
Yeah, that's like, fortunately, Persona 5, like, it was like, yeah, even though Mementos is pretty much Tartarus, fortunately, it was on a much smaller scale, so I don't necessarily mind I don't mind Mementos nearly as much as Tartarus.
Yeah, because you had all the palaces in between, so it's like...
Yeah, it was like, 5 was like Persona 4, the dungeons in Persona 4 is the palaces. Whereas, like, in 3, it's basically Mementos. 5 just took the two and put them together.
Okay.
Also, I would like to quickly point out, oh my god, we're in this level, and for once, I'm actually using momentum moves. Whoa! For once.
I mean, it still looks like it still looks like you're fighting a bunch of the same mooks.
Well, obviously. I mean, fucking really? I was like, yeah, it's like, of course we're usually fighting the same mooks. What were you expecting? Like, oh shit. God forbid, it's like, and the fun really gets started when an actual Sentinel makes the scene.
Sentinel, yeah.
Sentinel, yeah.
Oh, look, this is Sentinel right there.
Yeah, unfortunately, another part of a Sentinel.
That said, if a Sentinel showed up, this would be an entirely different game.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking is like, yeah, it's like, yeah, God, that would actually be a rather interesting challenge and whatnot. Deadpool versus a Sentinel.
Sentinels aren't just your average, like, mook robots. Every single one are actually very dangerous.
Yeah, it's like, didn't they establish, like, the Sentinels at one point were the result of, like, the deaths of thousands of mutants and mutates alike?
Yeah, like, there's a reason why Genosha is the way it is right now, why there's so many Sentinel parts lying around. It's because of the Sentinels.
So, okay, so you say mutate, like, what's the difference between, like, a mutant and a mutate? Like...
a mutant is somebody who's born with their genetic DNA, and their powers kind of show up among puberty. A mutate is somebody who was given their powers, like Deadpool here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Deadpool is technically considered a mutate in that case, seeing as how Ajax pretty much gave him the power of the healing factor.
Like, let's be fair, a good majority of the superheroes in Marvel are some kind of mutants in a sense. Like, Captain America, we can say, is a mutate. He was given his powers. Same goes for Bruce Banner. Peter Parker. Yes, like people, and there is an established difference. And it kind of sucks how for some reason the general public seems to acknowledge that difference, and it's a huge one to them. And this is kind of something, and this is kind of the bigotry that the mutants have to keep going through. For some reason, it's okay if your powers were given to you by some accident or whatever, and that you were normal at some point. It's not okay if you were born with them. Don't know why. That's just the crappy general public.
Well, wasn't the whole concept of just the X-Men in general, like, back when they were first writing it and everything, they want, you know, basically, the whole mutation stuff, it's basically an allegory for racism?
Yeah.
Like, what, yeah, wasn't that, like, the whole point of the X-Men?
Pretty much. Pretty much.
Okay.
And that, yeah, because because that is just for some reason, because this world is just so fucking crappy, and like that's just apparently the general mindset. It's apparently okay. It's just apparently not okay to be born, you know, a certain way.
Okay.
But apparently it is okay if you know it's given to you, like you know at a random point in your life, as opposed to being born with it. I don't know. People are dumb. People are bigoted. I hate people.
You know, fun fact, it may not look it, but for the most part, the reason why that Mook wasn't doing much to attack was because, for some reason, he still felt the need to just hug the wall.
By all means, hug the wall. Make it easier.
That also said, the Sentinels, I think, despite how dangerous the Sentinels are, they are a very real threat. I think they are the most satisfying redemption. Like, well, not really redemption. What's the word I'm looking for? I guess. So, fuck. They're like the most satisfying, I guess, kind of payback. Like, irony towards them. Because the Sentinels do go AWOL. Why do they go AWOL? Because they were, for one thing, they were programmed, of course, to destroy mutants. And they were given. They have specific DNA codings in their systems to know how to target certain mutants. That said, however, after a while they had a hard time telling mutants from normal humans. So they pretty much got to a point where Sentinels were like, "Oh, wait a second, human. There aren't actually any difference between humans and mutants. So we should be killing them all. We should be killing all of them."
Damn it, Wade!
So we got both parts of the Sentinel boot. Now for yet another little mini game.
Oh, dog, I heard you like boots. So I put my boots in this boot so I can stop you while I stop you.
Also, so yeah, basically, just shoot whatever enemies you can find. However, this is a bit trickier than it sounds. Because it's like yeah, here I am just blowing through a bunch of enemies, but as the boot, you know, turns his boosters on or whatnot, and goes to like other parts of the area or whatnot. Yeah, so sometimes the mooks can get the jump on you, and which can lead to you dying or whatnot. So just throwing that out there.
This is like playing like a Overwatch Uprising, where it's just wave after wave of mooks, and you're in one area, like you got to defend a point, and just
pretty much,
and just deal with wave upon wave of enemies.
Well, come on, button mash something.
God. Also, I gotta say, I don't know if it was only established just in this game or not, but I love how even the foot of a Sentinel comes jam-packed with guns and rocket launchers on the side. That is pretty awesome.
Nope. Nope. Oh, shit.
Okay, that was pretty funny.
It was just his initial reaction.
Yeah.
With the fucking instruction manual blew in the wind.
See,
Like, shit.
That's more akin to Deadpool's kind of humor. Like not all this meme bullshit.
Not all the fourth wall breakage, I guess.
Well, no, the fourth wall breakage can be a part of his humor, but like, there's a lot of memes that this game tries to take advantage of that really isn't Deadpool.
Did I just hear SpongeBob?
I don't know what you're talking about.
I didn't hear anything.
Yeah, because you were talking, but I heard it.
Plan? Flawless execution, perfect timing, one of our finest moments. I did poop a little. All part of the plan. Sure were a lot of expensive setups in that level. Hope Peter's okay with the budget. Budget? Oh, we'll show him budget.
Yeah, watch this. Hey, there's Rogue, flying just like us.
Flying right at us.
Deadpool, look out!
Come on, Rogue. You could have flown out of the way.
I just love his like little paper cutouts and little cotton ball clouds.
Yeah, that was pretty great. Actually, fun fact about that particular scene, in the previous versions of this game, they actually use like a different it's like the cutouts of Rogue were completely different compared to how Rogue looked like with the paper cutouts in the Xbox One and PS4 version.
Really? Like,
yeah, I mean,
like updated graphics, or like they just like redid the whole thing.
The fact they try to redo the whole thing is kind of, to me, it might be stretching it a bit, but it's like, I don't know, at this point, that I would not be surprised. But at the same time, though, it's like they did like pretty much exactly like how it was in the original, just with a different Rogue cutout. So it's kind of hard to say, really. But that having been said, that will pretty much do it, folks. So join us next time as we finally get into the next level, the prison level. We will see you guys then.